up and howl about America and democracy. There is no America. There is no democracy. We no longer live in a world of nations and ideologies. The world is a college of corporations, inexorably determined by the immutable bylaws of business. The world is a business. And I have chosen you to preach this evangel.
For all my free market healthcare robbing, stock stealing, retirement fund fucking with niggas. Fuck you little credit card scamming, jewelry stealing, crack selling, liquor store robbing motherfuckers. Shout to the homies, Carnegie, OG, Willie Randolph Hearst, Baruch, Rockefeller, the real Rockefeller, my main bitch Leona, pour out a little Louis XIII, Scott Rothstein, Jack Abramoff, hold your head, my Rothschild niggas, let's get this money. I spend my day peppering America overseas, pension for the workers, nigga please, embezzlement, etiquette, private settlement, I'm better with Confederate rhetoric from my mansion in Connecticut, foreclosure Vic homes out the tenement, I twist words like a speech impediment, I hope you got good credit bitch, if not better get a new job with benefits, while I play golf with niggas to get cheddar with, new money buys brand new carrots, my old money bunch of great grandparents, you got grills in your mouth, I ain't mad at ya, I own every gold mine in South Africa, thanks baby you made me $1 billion, plus I own a building for each one of my children's children.
Welcome everybody to Voice Rebellion Radio. This is your host Chris J. Actually live, 9 o'clock Eastern Time. Yes, this is me. I apologize that I have not been on I have not provided any new content in a few weeks, but this is new content and it is live content, so it's the best kind of content. And today we are talking a mixed show of a few topics. One of the first things that comes to mind is the major news that's happened in Africa since I last talked to you guys, which was about Robert Mugabe's coup and being overthrown by his own party, the ZANU-PF, the Revolutionary Party that led Zimbabwe for the last 37 years. It still runs Zimbabwe, and now he's been replaced by Emerson. I'm not sure how you pronounce the last name, so I'm not going to try, but the new president of Zimbabwe was a close ally to Robert Mugabe. There was reports before he actually had resigned that Robert Mugabe was out, but he's officially out as of I believe Monday. He resigned from his title as president of Zimbabwe, and now after 37 years, Mugabe's rule has come to an end. Robert Mugabe was the first president in Zimbabwe, led Zimbabwe after the revolution, and pretty much he was the major figure, I guess you could say, of the independence from Britain. The end of Rhodesia, named after Cecil Rhodes, who is known for we now use the Rhodes Scholarship, is named after him. Even though that Cecil Rhodes was not an honorable man by any means, he killed millions of Africans in the colonization of Africa 100 plus years ago. And Cecil Rhodes had a country in his name, Rhodesia, which also Rothschilds had a role in. And Robert Mugabe at first was an ally to the United Kingdom. However, he split away from the United Kingdom, and the tensions built, and he split away from world banking and international banking, and that's why they attacked him with economic warfare, economic sanctions, which caused the Zimbabwean dollar to experience hyperinflation. After years of hyperinflation by attacks from the international bankers, the Zimbabwean dollar finally crumbled, but Mugabe went to the Chinese yuan. And now, the situation that Zimbabwe found themselves in is, I think that's why there was potentially a conspiracy to remove him out of power. Even though that Robert Mugabe's time was almost up, I think there's still fear that he might stay there for another few years. The rest of his life, he was planning on running again in 2018. However, now that's out of the picture, that Robert Mugabe is out of power and is no longer the president of Zimbabwe. Still revered in this country, and despite to the contrary of what the mainstream media has said, Robert Mugabe still has a lot of support amongst the people in Zimbabwe. They have tried to say that everybody was celebrating his removal from power. And yes, there were a lot of fans of the removal of Mugabe, but not everybody in Zimbabwe is celebrating. And I'm sure that very soon we're going to see what it actually happens after Mugabe's removal. I'm wondering if Mugabe is going to, what if his legacy will actually remain in the current president that is now taking place, Emerson, or will Emerson will he turn into a tool for global Zionism in the West, as we've seen in other coups in the past where they were already tools. That's the only thing that's kind of confusing as a question mark in the air is really what is for the future of Zimbabwe, because it's hard to read what this vice president or former vice president is about. He was fired in early October, which they said is the reason why the military decided to force Mugabe to resign his power. Mugabe at first, when he was expected to resign, did not resign, but he resigned in the wake of impeachment proceeding against him. And I think it was Tuesday. Tuesday was when he resigned officially, and that ended 37 years of power for Robert Mugabe, the former African president. Robert Mugabe, I would say, was also the last leader in Africa that really stood for his people and was not a colonial puppet or a colonial puppet like all the other leaders practically in Africa, neo-colonial puppet. Which the difference between, that and maybe like a colonial governor is really just that the puppet is a black person instead of in the past a white person proceeding over these countries. So, pretty much the entire African continent. I hope Zimbabwe does not become now just every other African country now. And also I hope it really doesn't become like Libya, where this is what kind of reminds me of Gaddafi's removal. After a long period of time, people all around the world are saying that how good it is to finally Mugabe's out. And it was the same thing with Gaddafi. And will they realize later that Zimbabwe was much better with Mugabe compared to his successor, just like Libya was much better with Gaddafi rather than his successor. And, which really the successor is just a power vacuum. It's terrorism ransacking the country. Now, the future of Zimbabwe is definitely clouded, and I hope this is not another situation like like many of the other coups that have happened. I hope this is just not one more country that's fallen into another trap, another CIA coup that's against them. Robert Mugabe did a lot for his country, and people have spread a lot of propaganda about him. But from what I've researched, the Mugabe regime was not tyrannical in the nature that many people have tried to insinuate that it was. He did face elections in recent years, and the Mugabe regime definitely was dictatorial nature. However, I would say it was benevolent in some regards, and also that the idea that Mugabe was a crazed racist is simply not true. It's true that he had some outdated opinions, for example, in the homosexual community in Zimbabwe. However, I just have to remind you that Robert Mugabe was born in 1923. I mean, this guy is almost 1924. I mean, he was born in the mid-1920s. This guy grew up in the 1930s. So his views might be a little bit outdated, of course. Robert Mugabe is was the oldest leader in the world at the time of his resignation. 93, he's going to be turning 94, February 24th. There was also controversy around his successor, which his successor was going to be his wife, Grace Mugabe, who's much younger than him. I think Grace Mugabe is only in her 50s, around 60 years old. So that was who he wanted as successor. After this current guy fell out of favor. This guy was sought for a long time to be the successor to Mugabe, to take over when Mugabe died or resigned. There was other attempts in the past to overthrow Mugabe in coup attempts. This is not the first time to overthrow Mugabe. In I think 08-09, there was a coup attempt against Mugabe's regime, and so as we look back on what's happened, it was pretty unexpected too. Is that I didn't really see it coming that Mugabe's regime would see a coup against it in this nature, and a military coup at that. It wasn't even like a political coup like we've seen recently in South America, multiple countries, but a political coup with the military being used. And I think it's a little bit unclear still whether what's going to happen to her. It looks Mugabe, however, fortunately he's been pardoned, so he's at least not going to be facing criminal charges, like sometimes the former leader in these coups will be executed in such nature or be arrested. It does not look like that will happen to Robert Mugabe. Sorry there, I just had to double check that I was still on the call. I thought I lost the air for a second. So, just letting everyone know also that the call number for tonight is 718-717-8296, 718-717-8296, here at Voice Rebellion Radio, UCY.TV, live tonight, Sunday night, here from St. Petersburg, Florida. Talk about the Zimbabwe coup right now and multiple other topics. It's just going to be a general mix show. Last show that I think that was new content was about 3 weeks ago. I did the, what's that? No, it might have been 4 weeks ago. It's been a while. I think I did that show with, it was with Vince Easley. I did that interview about like 4 weeks ago or so. So it's been a little bit since I've been on the radio. I was also on the radio though I think it was on Halloween night. I was on the radio with, Michael on Primer Time, for about an hour that night. And I haven't done a whole lot of radio for the month of November. Definitely December, you'll hear more new content every week, for sure. I'm trying to think, what days do I air on any of the holidays this year? By the way, I got got a boring day job now, so it's that's kind of, he's gotten a little bit in the way of doing, it's like I haven't had a little bit of the energy to do some of these shows. Right now I came off a really just brain frying shift right now, but glad to be back on the radio and doing my passion right here. Talk about politics and some of the recent events that have happened in the last couple of weeks. Zimbabwe's also, just remember that in Zimbabwe prior to the Mugabe regime is that they had an apartheid like South Africa, and I see a lot of people, I guess you'd say the edgelords of the internet, posting stuff in favor of the in favor of the Rhodesian era, with all kinds of posts showing celebrating the white minority rule that preceded the Mugabe regime. And what I have to say to that is that the people that do that, this is the same league of people that it's usually an irony, because a lot of these people also support the South African apartheid regime. The South African apartheid regime is directly supported by the Israeli apartheid regime. A lot of times they will say that they'll call themselves anti-Zionist sometimes, but they'll still support a regime that got nuclear weapons directly from the apartheid Israeli regime. And so all of them are one of the same. Rhodesia, South Africa prior to 1994, and Israel, they're all one of the same apartheid states. And Rhodesia got support from, I think, Portugal, the United States. Portugal being a fascist regime at the time. Salazar, I think, supported the Rhodesian regime. The United States supported Rhodesia. Only a few states actually openly supported the Rhodesian regime towards the end, and it lost a lot of favor back home in the modern day Zimbabwe. They took their culture, they took their identity, and they stripped it in the name of the colonization for Britain. They renamed it Rhodesia. Is that Rhodesia is not, to me, is one of the most ugly marks of the Rothschilds, the international bankers, left on Africa, and Mugabe's overthrow of that regime was a very necessary thing to happen. And Mugabe being overthrown now is very, I have to say, it's a little disturbing. Potentially it's just the idea that I don't know what's going to happen. He did also shut down some of the diamond slavery that used to take place in Zimbabwe. He has made sure that his people are treated right. And, it's a lot of people that call themselves nationalists, seem to hate on Robert Mugabe, and they start to throw around the words, white genocide, and try to say that he's some kind of, they even try to say some kind of like Rothschild agent or something like that. The nationalists, need to realize that that he himself is a nationalist and he protected his own people, not the British people living there, but the people native to the land of Zimbabwe. And most of the British people left. You know, a lot of the people making this uproar in Zimbabwe were 1% white minority, group inside of Zimbabwe that, most of the people there had already left a long time before that. When Mugabe took over, and it's true that yes, all the land was, taken back and given to the people of Zimbabwe. A lot of land that had been legally taken during the British colonial rule. They gave the land back to the people in, Zimbabwe. And also, so it's true that a lot of the whites did lose their land there. However, this idea that there was mass murder of whites in, Mugabe, under Zimbabwe, I have not seen a lot of evidence about. So, but this is what's happened the last few days since the resignation. Wednesday, the 22nd, the new president arrived in Zimbabwe, this afternoon, gave a speech outside the ZANU-PF headquarters, pledging the beginning of a new unfolding democracy. The Zimbabwe Broadcasting Corporation posted a report that Mnangagwa, I tried pronouncing it, would be sworn on the November 24th as interim president to serve the remainder of Mugabe's term in office. Later that day, the African Union issued a statement in which it refrained from describing the military intervention as a coup, but instead recognized Mugabe's ouster as a legitimate expression of the will of the Zimbabwean people. Mnangagwa was sworn in on November 24th, 2017. So, it's hard to say there's not a lot of indicators of what direction, but I see this talk about a new democracy. I hope that by new democracy doesn't mean that Zimbabwe giving into the will of other countries and giving into the, given into the international bankers' will. Sorry, everyone. I guess I lost the feed there for a second. Didn't realize it. What I was saying is that Mugabe. I'm hoping that the ouster Mugabe doesn't lead to Mugabe or Zimbabwe, bound to the international bankers and the people there is struggling. A very difficult situation, like we've seen some of the prior situations where there was a coup. And then after that, a new regime taken over. We've seen similar situations in other countries. We've seen like Paraguay, what has the country's descended to ever since the parliamentary coup of Fernando Lugo in 2012, where Parliament ousted him when he was ill with cancer, and now the country's descended into violence. And this is their violence makes Venezuela's look pale in comparison, but they don't talk about it on the news about what's going on in Paraguay, because it's a country allied to America, but they try to talk about the violence that's going on in Venezuela because that makes Venezuela look bad. But Paraguay, they don't talk about it because Horacio Cortez is allied with the United States. Nicolas Maduro, he is not. He's allied with Russia. And it's funny, they've been trying to oust Maduro for now, ever since 2014, and Maduro is still in power as we almost go into 2018. He's about to reach almost 5 years in power, actually, in about a half year. And after almost 5 years of power, Nicolas Maduro, is still there. I think that the Socialist Party in Venezuela will probably still be in power in a few years. I think that they'll be still there in 2019, but unless there's a coup, like what just Zimbabwe though, it's hard to say if it's called this is a takeover by the West, that now they're going to be 100% pro-Western. Might not be the case. Might have just been totally a 100% internal struggle. I think it's a little too early to say. And so, I think that one promising sign that might not be a total takeover by the West is the fact that Mugabe was just, that he got immunity by the former government and, or by the new government. Person gave him immunity so he won't be prosecuted. And I think that it's very likely that Mugabe is going to spend the remaining years in Zimbabwe. I think that I also just remember that Emerson was once one of Mugabe's closest people to him. So there's no doubt that there's still a very big chance that this is not the end of revolutionary Zimbabwe, and that's going to go to a Zimbabwe that we're unfamiliar with, that it's not as challenged international players on a world stage, and even though that they ultimately crumbled in the economic warfare, they still put on a pretty good show and challenging the New World Order in their economic warfare. Just letting everyone know, call-in number tonight is going to be 718-717-8296. 718-717-8296 here at Voice Rebellion Radio at UCY.TV, UCY.TV. I thank everyone that's tuned in, wherever you tuned in from. If you tuned in from Primer Time, or not Primer Time, I think it's Real Liberty Media, or tuned in from UCY.TV, or the many places that the show, I believe, is still broadcast to different platforms where we have that. YouTube. By the way, if you haven't checked out some of my recent interviews that you can check out on YouTube, I have all the shows, all the recent shows there, or UCY.TV. You can check the archives. You can see all my recent shows, interviews that I've done of different figures that I've been able to interview recently. I know Cecily McMillan was one of the more recent ones. I know we did. Who else did I do over the summer? Sergei Bardashov, Rosalind Bueller. Rosalind Bueller being one of my favorite guests to have on the show. And moving on to another topic. So one of the biggest figures of the one of the most infamous names in the 1960s finally died. Charles Manson finally died. I find it interesting that is how everybody feared Charles Manson. Charles Manson was probably more notorious than George H.W. Bush, than McNamara, all these people that were, behind, that were, McNamara, Kissinger, named behind Vietnam, named behind the Gulf War, Rumsfeld, Cheney, Bush, all these politicians that were big time, parts of wars happening. Why aren't these names more infamous than, somebody that killed, very brutally 9 people, but it was 9 people in comparison to tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people that Charles Manson was responsible for. Charles Manson ultimately, it's kind of more of you'd say, it's kind of a reflection of maybe of a sick society. That ultimately, a lot of the ills of American society, the latter half of the 20th century going into modern times, is reflected in Charles Manson. And Charles Manson, being this, the cult leader that he was, yeah, it's pretty, it's kind of crazy though. The whole story about it is that they practically got to do all these interviews over the years where they kept him in the news. Some people have said that he was an MK Ultra agent. Other people, a lot of people just believe he's just completely crazy. It's kind of interesting watching him, watching his interviews. A lot of times it brings some pretty good comedy, I guess you could say. And then there was that one time where Charles Manson did that, where they asked him what Charles Manson was and did all the funny faces, and then somebody made the GIF with Charles Manson doing the funny faces compared to Trump doing his funny faces. But ultimately, Charles Manson was also somebody that reflective of internal kind of hidden racism, I guess you could say, was kind of reflective was the swastika tattoo that he has on his that he had on his forehead, and that's kind of that is I guess you could say the narcissism, and at the same time the kind of just ultimately the manipulative nature, I guess the manipulative nature of the media, the politicians, kind of reflect back in Charles Manson. But he finally died at 83 years old, I think. So he lived an entire life practically in prison. He spent, I think, about 50 years in prison. And, like I said, he was somebody that had a lot of interesting media appearances over the years. They did quite a few interviews with him, and it was always pretty crazy again to watch. Honestly, I think they partially kept the media just to have this boogeyman. It's like, hey, look at this guy. He's much scarier than our government. It's kind of like the Bin Laden effect. They kept talking Bin Laden, but it's like we got to have the big government in order to protect our country from people like him. Same thing with like Charles Manson a little bit. It's like, hey, we got to make the law enforcement a lot bigger to protect the country from people like Charles Manson. That kind of thing. Another big news, I'm going to go to a little change the topic a little bit. Another big news event that has happened is November 13th, which that was 13 days ago. Yeah, so almost 2 weeks ago, RT America officially registered as a foreign agent in the United States, and now they have to disclose financial information in order to, continue operating. So now RT America is no longer just considered as a journalistic source, as they're treating them as a foreign agent in the United States. I guess it's probably somewhat of a revenge for when Russia called some of these NGOs that are operating in Russia for what they are, foreign agents. So now RT has been forced to list as the foreign agent in the United States. RT America, I think, is ran for now quite a few years. It used to, and by the way, RT, being Russia today, it kind of makes sense that they're going to finally, they're going to crack down on RT, when they've exposed a lot of the, bullshit that the, mainstream media has put out there that the United States government has told us. And, what's funny is that actually my new job now, they have RT though on the direct TV, and a lot of times they try to put CNN everywhere. CNN in every fucking TV across the place, It seems like, in the break rooms you have CNN playing. I don't know why they want us to, of course they're just getting the propaganda to us. It's like, hey, we'll just put on CNN, everywhere. I change in the break room whenever I have a chance to change it to RT, that hopefully, may some people get the real news for a little bit instead of the fake news, fake news CNN, RT, RT's in my opinion, it's not perfect. Of course, it's a bias, but RT is a lot better than the mainstream media. And, state ran, but it doesn't have these mega corporations, like CNN, MSNBC, Fox News. You have the, you got the different people behind them, the mega corporation billionaires are behind all the big three. CNN, I believe Ted Turner, billionaire, was originally the founder of that. MSNBC, like big corporations like General Electric and other defensive subcontractors behind that. Fox News, giant defensive subcontractors, Prince Alaweed, but he's actually now, Prince Alawid, I think he's in trouble in Saudi Arabia now. It's kind of ironic, isn't it, that the channel that supports Trump, who, he made a big part of his campaign about cracking down on Saudi Arabia, was supported by Saudi Arabia. I think it kind of shows that, just the circus that our, electoral system is that, that you could, supposedly call out a country, on that, on the mainstream media, but yet at the same time, that country funds that channel that you were, venting your anger at, calling it, I remember on Twitter you called the, Saudi prince the dopey Prince Alawid and all that. Honestly, that was interesting, just watching Trump's run to, the presidency and, all the, how you quickly differed, now quickly, all that stuff from the campaign is now just another president, nothing much different, nowadays than when, Trump was first, when Trump's, first started his run back in, June 16th, 2015. I remember when he first started the run, I thought that for sure that there was no chance that he would ever get anywhere. I thought that he was it's just gonna be a setup for the Bush-Clinton, nightmare election, that was just gonna be, the most boring election. It was gonna be Jeb Bush versus, Hillary Clinton, which ultimately had one of them, Hillary Clinton versus Trump. And in that election, it finally, I think, brought Americans to realize just how terrible our politics had gotten to. And, people, ultimately we saw the ugliness of both sides, I guess, of the American politics. We saw the, just disgusting nature of the social justice warrior, some of these Antifa types are now, I'm not saying all of Antifa the same way, but I'm saying some of the people that are in Antifa, all that. And then you saw on the other side, I guess you could see the so-called, these alt-right people, some of these alt-right people, but, the people, also, just the diehard Trumpers that, it's contradictory. That some of these people actually, they claim to be nationalists, but they support one of the biggest Zionists that, support one of the biggest Zionist state supporters we've ever seen, Donald J. Trump, who is he's known to be supportive of Israel, was in 2004, I think was the head of a parade in support of Israel in New York City. So, he was a total irony, and that's why we saw a lot of contradictions, I think, like a lot of times in the American, political system, a lot of contradictions. And at the same time, we saw them, really trying to put this narrative, and they're still putting this narrative of the supposed Russian meddling in the election. They continue saying that, they continue all over and over and over again about how Russia supposedly meddled in the election, even though, most of the people I talk to, they don't seem to believe that, Russia meddled, they don't really believe the bullshit that is being said on the media, fake news right now. Why I keep saying the fake news, it just sounds catchy. I'm not joining the Trump bandwagon or anything like that. Some people would probably say, oh, he's joining the Trump bandwagon. But anyways, wasn't the fake news thing, wasn't that something that the Hillary Clinton's team put out, something about about that they said that they were putting propaganda against her and it was fake news or something like that. They were trying to say like outlets, there's different outlets that were putting out fake news or something like that. I thought that then Trump ran along with the, he started saying CNN, fake news, and that kind of thing. Some of the state, talk about the, some of the statements that they've tried to use to, denounce some of the real media that's coming from other places, some of the alternative media. It's like, it shows that RT's kind of just a perfect example, though, of what's to come for all the alternative media outlets eventually, not just RT. You see that, this is what the U.S. Department of Justice compelled RT. You see, they filed in the Foreign Agents Act, and then it said Previously, the United States Secretary of State John Kerry had referred to RT as a state-sponsored propaganda bullhorn. He went on to say Russia today has deployed to promote President Putin's fantasy about what is playing out on the ground. They almost spend full time devoted to this effort to propagandize and start what is happening or not happening in Ukraine. And RT responds to it, and they said they want an official response from the United States Department of State substituting Mr. Kerry's claims. Richard Stengel from the U.S. Department of State responded. Stengel stated in his response, RT is an extortion machine, not a news organization, including the network, as editors should not pretend RT is anything other than other player in Russia's global disinformation campaign against the people of Ukraine and their supporters. However, Stengel supports RT's right to broadcast in the United States. This is to show how unneutral the people in our government see about the media. That just because it's what RT is, it's automatically a Russian disinformation, and that's not true. Is what they're going to say. Ukraine banned RT, by the way, and then Lithuania's, this is the war on RT, I guess you could say. Lithuania's Minister of Foreign Affairs posted on Twitter on the 9th of March 2014. So this is amid the Crimean crisis. Russia Today propaganda machine is no less destructive than the military march in Crimea, which killed nobody. Russia did not. I think it's like 2 total people were killed that whole Crimean siege, and it was like by accident or something like that. The Crimea was a takeover of the 96.6% of the country supported. 19.6% of the Crimea voted to become part of Russia. It was not by any way a forced vote. I don't think that they're like, it was like 50% and they rigged it or anything like that. Okay, so and then I actually tried to interview another person, Tony Gosling, who was considered. They labeled him. I think they're trying to say that he was putting. Yeah, they said an exponent of long discredited series concerning the alleged control of the world by Illuminati and the Tsarist anti-conspiracy forgery, the protocols of the elders of Zion. It's just unbelievable how they, this whole, it's labeling RT of a foreign agent. What about Al Jazeera? They're definitely a foreign agent for Qatar. If we're going to talk about foreign agents, but luckily Al Jazeera is falling apart on its own. Nobody wants to watch that garbage, which is practically what it is it's flavored up Salafist garbage. It was a little bit of pro-Palestine stuff in order to try to fool people that they're something that they're not. But ultimately, it's not the opposition. Al Jazeera is garbage, and in some ways, it's more disastrous than the mainstream media itself. Because the mainstream media itself is now losing any kind of credibility. People no longer take the mainstream media seriously. But alternative media that has been spruced up might be this might be more dangerous when it's something like that has been where mainstream media was like an alternative media title and that's being promoted as something different. Like the same thing as the Young Turks is that it's practically the mainstream media, but it's not really the mainstream media. So people are like, ooh, that's different. Cenk Uygur might be talking some truth, but you watch it and it's complete garbage. Cenk Uygur, ultimately, it's a great show watching, the two sides of the alternative media, the Young Turks versus Alex Jones. Both sides of these, of that, they kind of reflect the ugliness of both sides right now of the same coin that is the political, spectrum right now in America. Alex Jones, so-called right, and Cenk Uygur, the so-called left in America. They're both tools. That's how I see it. Even though they might be the so-called alternative media, they are the fake alternative media. It's the controlled opposition. And have people like Alex Jones, it seems like more time goes along, he seems like he's getting more mainstream. And I wouldn't surprise me if Alex Jones will be one day, as he brought his some of his statements back to close to the mainstream, that Alex Jones could be made perhaps on a bigger mainstream channel in a year or a few years from now. It wouldn't surprise me, that if Alex Jones by the end of a second Trump term would be on Fox News. And mostly, what is it now? Just this is. Let's see what some of the. I'm actually going to look at Infowars.com to see what has happened to Infowars of what is even his website nowadays. I mean, it's kind of crazy. I actually took Infowars seriously at one point. I remember back about 4 years ago, I actually saw Alex Jones was like the man. Alex Jones actually, was somebody that actually knew what he was talking about. But and then I watched later that he seems to be a just tool for the mainstream media. He participates in. He's also a participant in Black Friday. That's great. 50% off Black Friday sales. The Alex Jones website. So. He says he's not beholden to his advertisers, but he does sell a lot of shit and water filters and everything. And he doesn't. And this man is probably pretty wealthy. Just letting everyone know. Also, Alex Jones, like I said, why you have to ultimately take the side of the mainstream when it comes to Israel, when it comes to socialist countries that are they're attempting to imperialize. You have to support them, Alex Jones. Why do you have to do that, huh? It's. And Alex Jones apparently started, they have on his bio, I started at the tender age of 20, and he's been all the time syndicated on over 160 stations. Just the fact that, I guess it went so mainstream, I should almost feel a little funny that I even took him seriously at one point. And, I guess he's really trying to kind of normalize his image in some ways, even though he still goes on a little temper tantrum and he goes yelling on for 10 minutes. It gets all red in the face. It makes all people that talk about the government look like, nut jobs. And, Alex Jones might have woken up a lot of people, I guess you could say, but he's a gatekeeper. Kind of like Noam Chomsky also. It's another great example of a gatekeeper. Another person I used to respect, however, I no longer respect because he is I realize he's just a gatekeeper. It was a pretty interesting show when Alex Jones and Noam Chomsky went toe-to-toe on a show before. But, when Noam Chomsky was saying about it, supporting Hillary, it was just like, what the fuck is going on now? This man that, I think used to say that he was pretty much an anarchist. It seems like it's kind of almost hard to find these true people in the alternative media. And then Mark Dice, another great example. What is he? He's practically just turned into I bash liberals daily. I'm look at me. I'm straight white male, and come at me, you trendy liberals. That's Mark Dice now. Hey, Mark Dice has always came off as a little bit like an arrogant rich kid. Mark Dice is. I don't know. I'm surprised in some ways. There's got to be a video of him getting punched in the face one of these times because he just comes up so smug too. It's something that does not make the entire alternative media look good. It makes alternative media look like we're just we're people that we think we're smarter than everyone, and we think everyone else is dumber than us. Not that this is years of programmed brainwashing in the media that's made other people think the way they do. Instead of taking this approach, to try to help people, take this approach of being smug about it, and it's like, hey, I'm better than everyone because I know what's going on. In quotation. But you know what? Sometimes I wonder if Mark Dice even knows what's going on. And I wonder how many times has Mark Dice even spoken about Israel. That's one thing I've noticed about both Mark Dice and Alex Jones. But Alex Jones, I think, has at least mentioned it. I can't even think of a time that Mark Dice has even mentioned Israel ever. It seems that, and Mark Dice has this weird, like, relationship with Alex Jones. It's, like, kind of on and off. I know that one time they didn't like each other, another time did like each other. I think right now they're both, like, on the same team. And I know Mark Dice is still on the Trump bandwagon. So is Alex Jones, I believe. He's on the Trump bandwagon. I don't know how Mark Dice went from the person that, and Alex Jones, they both went from people who said that the entire electoral system is controlled by the New World Order and everything of that nature. And then just a few years later, when Trump's elected, they're going to say that, no, actually, I want to support this candidate. And I think also, Alex Jones, he's been, this is not the only, Alex Jones has almost turned into I guess you'd say over the time, a mainstream Republican in some ways. And same thing with Mark Dice, he became a smug mainstream Republican. I guess you could say, the mainstream, I guess, is not a Republican, may not be totally in support of Trump, a mainstream Trump Republican. I guess you could say still into the mainstream. They try to make it seem like that in my opinion, is that they selected Donald Trump. Donald Trump would have never gotten this far if they didn't want him to be there. He's serving a role, and he is a puppet right now. So, who has done, as attack Syria, push for, more has brought things to the brim with North Korea and Iran. There's been a lot of, it's gotten to the boiling point in Iran. And right now, over a year after the election of Donald J. Trump, I don't know if the future for America looks any more brighter than it did before. I would say it does not. It looks about the same. And even though Donald Trump's, waging the supposed war on, the establishment, I don't see the swamp being drained. The swamp it seems to be reloaded with all these swamp figures. And I guess you could say he made a new swamp. But I wouldn't say it's a new swamp. I would just say that they, would be a good way of describing what the elite has done with the, Trump, presidency and the cabinet around the Trump presidency. And also just a little, heads up to everyone that's wanting to call, anybody wants to call in, don't be shy. We can, really, I'm just doing a mix show, so I'm talking about anything and, many different topics tonight. Just going off on, different, tangents. 718-717-8296, 718-717-8296. Here at Voice Rebellion Radio, at UCY.TV. This is Chris J, here live, here Sunday night. And it's a pretty chilly night here also as well here on the East Coast. It's about 6:48 also on the West Coast right now. So it's still early evening. It feels kind of weird doing a show live. I'm trying to think when the last time I did a show, besides the one that I did with Primer Time. I'm trying to think when the last time I, live here on Sunday night here for Voice Rebellion Radio. I know I did like a 6 o'clock show with, Vince Easley. That was because that was before the times changed. Now I think it's the first show I've done since we set back the clocks a couple weeks ago. That was like 3 weeks ago now. Wow. It's crazy. What else is going on? Also you see that, and talk about, going to the boiling point with North Korea, is that North Korea has been relabeled as a state sponsor of terrorism. In the same country that allied with Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Bahrain, actual state sponsors of terrorism, they're going to say that North Korea is a state sponsor of terrorism, which is a designation they had until 2008. This is something that Trump has done, and by putting this on there, I think that this is a step in the wrong direction. And, North Korea is not by no means a perfect country, but they're not a state sponsor of terrorism. Who they sponsor? They're not sponsoring ISIS, like the United States is doing in Syria, which they're almost defeated now, by the way. That's just about over. I would say it's almost, you could almost say it's coming to a wrap now, like an actual wrap. You could say, who else? Who else would be I mean, who else are they going to say? Al Qaeda, like the United States made, funded, still supports to stay in Syria. Who else you're going to say that they sponsor, Hamas, like, Israel put on their own bankroll at one point, their supposed, like, mortal enemy, their boogeyman, they bankrolled, which, I think that Hamas is kind of just like the boogeyman that they financed at points in order to, have a reason, I guess you could say, in order to do the horrible genocide that they, commit in, Gaza. I mean, people are very distracted right now with the holidays and all that, but there is a decent amount of news. I mean, this is a major development, designating North Korea as a state sponsor of terrorism. Which, is not a title to be taken lightly. And some people say that they've committed terrorism, with Yam Pang, the shelling that they did a few years ago. And, I would say these are acts of war, but, they call them a state sponsor of terrorism. A state sponsor of terrorism, they're not sponsoring terrorist groups around the world, and I think that's what they've tried to say. This, by the way, happened about 7 days ago, so this is a pretty recent saying. Seems like right now they're just trying to, start some kind of conflict with North Korea. And, they do have like $1 trillion of rare earth minerals under the ground in North Korea. That might be part of the reason why they want to attack North Korea. Also, they do have a Rothschild central bank. So, there's a lot of desire in the West in order to beat North Korea. They also are a self-sufficient socialist country, and that's all these things into consideration. This is part of the reason why North Korea is hated by the West. North Korea defies all the odds of, of survival in their situation. And they've attacked them with all kinds of economic sanctions. They're practically isolated from the rest of the world economically, but they still survive. This is for a very different. President Donald Trump put North Korea back on a list of state sponsors of terrorism Monday. Designation that allowed the United States to impose more. Yeah, and there's going to be more sanctions, more bullshit heading towards Pyongyang. The Treasury Department will announce additional sanctions against North Korea on Tuesday. So I'm guessing that's going to be next Tuesday, or maybe they already announced. Designation came a week after Trump returned from a 12-day, 5-nation trip in Asia, in which he made containing North Korea's nuclear weapons ambitions a centerpiece to his discussion. In addition to threatening the world by nuclear devastation, This is what Trump has said. In addition to threatening the world by nuclear devastation, North Korea has repeatedly supported acts of international terrorism, including assassinations on foreign soil. Trump told reporters at the White House. And I remember there was the Valentine's Day assassination of, I think it was the half-brother of Kim Jong-un in Malaysia. However, that's pretty dubious that North Korea had any role to do with that. I think that might have been actually CIA, the assassination of Kim Jong-un's brother in the airport in Malaysia, where he was poisoned. And there hasn't actually been too much news about that ever since it happened. It just kind of happened, and without the news, I remember very clearly when it happened. It was pretty interesting. I thought it was a pretty interesting development. And now, just this total escalation. You can see that it seems like with North Korea and Iran, we're getting closer and closer to a war of some kind. I think that, perhaps it's been delayed. I know that I've said for a long time that it would happen sometime this year, and I think it definitely, there's nothing that says that it can't happen this year. Right now, we're almost towards the end of the year. I think I said fall 2017 before. That was kind of like what I was hinting at, because what I was going off by was what Netanyahu said in 2013, that there'd be an attack on New York in 3 to 4 years, and now that's kind of, I kind of saw that as maybe a foreshadowing of some kind of false flag event that would be blamed on Iran or Syria. And also, also Dick Cheney prognosticating a false flag. I think it was like 2 years ago. He predicted there'd be some kind of, or no, he predicted like a terror attack. Also, kind of like I prognosticated 9/11. He also predicted that there would be a terrorist attack in April 2001. So, that's why I kind of predicted that in 2017 at some point we'd probably see maybe the next, the next, terror attack or some kind that they would blame on another country for the use of going to war. Now, Dick Cheney, also that was kind of creepy to me. The man with no heart predicting that there'd be something bad happening soon. That there would be this is it's literally a man without a heart. Dick Cheney actually got his heart removed, I think, and they have like an artificial one in there. He's an anomaly, I guess you'd say. It's kind of just surprising he's even still around. It's kind of creepy, this man that's, used to be the vice president, is, literally is part machine, acts like a machine in some regard. And sci-fi movie or something, It doesn't seem like a real life. Sometimes I have to just re-examine what America has turned into. And sometimes I think America's turned into a South Park episode. It turned into a big, giant South Park episode, especially with these, the whole meme war of 2016 between the, you could say the alt-right and the social justice warriors, which, how I see them as both being tools of the grandeur of the mainstream and the elite and the establishment. They're just a smaller piece really in this whole game, especially people like Richard Spencer. There's a contradiction in so many forms. Doesn't he go on about how, I bet he even says probably the whites are physically superior when you see how, Richard Spencer looks. He doesn't look like somebody that's physically superior, does he? He kind of looks like I don't even know what he really looks like. He doesn't look physically superior. I'll tell you that. I've seen stories where, he got attacked by a single white woman inside of a gym for his political beliefs, and a black woman went to defend him. It's like, I'm pretty sure, I just found it funny how that whole scenario went down. And, just all the things in America that's happening, and then, President Trump, I know that's actually, they have kind of their President Garrison on South Park. It's kind of like it's supposed to be like a mimic of President Trump. All of it though, it just seems like a big South Park episode or something, a really bad TV show that we're all collectively experiencing right now. It's some kind of bad reality show, produced by MTV in the 1990s, kind of just to see, put all these random political beliefs in people's heads and see if they can live together or something like that. That's what we're living in right now. It's very, just craziness, and though, if I had to make a new prediction, I think that it has been delayed. I think the plans for to go to war, into a World War III. I think perhaps maybe they're going to wait to the latter part of this term, of Trump's term, or whoever, if Trump's impeached the next term, because I know they already have impeachment commercials for Donald Trump around. But that one billionaire has put out the commercials to impeach Trump, and so maybe perhaps perhaps another Mike Pence or Tom Steyer, by the way, I believe is the one that is producing the impeach Trump ads. Tom Steyer. So, perhaps it was this billionaire hedge fund manager, made this a sign that they're moving towards removing Trump and putting in a new puppet, Pence, maybe Paul Ryan. By the way, people that are interested, he has $1.6 billion, this, Tom Steyer guy that's been putting the commercials, I'm not sure if I saw one on TV. I know I saw, I've seen them online. These ads to impeach Trump. I think I might have saw one on television. I think I did see one on television actually. He was just a little background on this guy. Worked on Walter Mondale's presidential campaign, raised money for Bill Bradley in 2000 and John Kerry in 2004. An early supporter of Hillary Clinton, Steyer became one of Barack Obama's most prolific fundraisers. Spent time on the DNC in 2004 and 2008. Steyer has been a member of the Hamilton Project and has been involved with Democracy Alliance and a network of progressive donors. Okay. After the Obama victory in 2008, Steyer was considered an appointment as Secretary of Treasury. Steyer joined former Secretary of State and Republican George Shultz to co-chair the No on Proposition 23 campaign in California. Steyer was the leading sponsor of Proposition 39. Steyer, what else did Steyer do? Let's see. Let's say this is his 2017 Trump impeachment campaign. Steyer spent around $10 million for a television ad advocating the impeachment of Donald Trump and planned to spend millions more on a digital ad campaign to call for Trump's impeachment. And the ad, Steyer identified himself only as an American citizen and alleges that Trump brought us to the brink of nuclear war, struck justice at the FBI, and direct violation of the Constitution has taken money from foreign governments and threatened to shut down news organizations that report the truth. Trump has responded by calling Steyer wacky and totally unhinged. The ad campaign has led to speculation that Steyer may be planning a campaign for either California governor or California senator in 2018. So, yeah, that's the only thing that makes me think that, is the fact that now it's starting to get to the television level. I never thought it would ever get this far, where they'd be calling for his impeachment on television. This may be the start of Trump, on his way out, and, being replaced by, I guess you could say, an establishment Republican such as Paul Ryan, or perhaps, being replaced by, someone similar, similar to that, as Paul Ryan being Speaker of the House, maybe perhaps, also, there's Mike Pence, however, I don't think it'd be Tillerson would be in there because, that's the ones that they've been targeted. They targeted Tillerson pretty heavily as part of the connections with Putin. They said that Tillerson was connected, and they pointed to an award that he got, which doesn't really mean anything. That award that he got in 2013 from Russia, Rex Tillerson was awarded. I think that some of them made a kind of a big deal about that. Some of the media outlets. So they probably put Paul Ryan in. That's who I would assume they would put in. But I think Pence would go too. I think they try to say that he was connected somehow. By the way, Paul Ryan, the robot, and this kind of just weird to watch him even operate. It's like a totally different software than most humans, I guess you'd say. It's just unnatural. It's kind of klutzy, and I don't see. That's the only thing that's the only reason why I don't think that they would put him, just because the fact that he's he's just not a really likable individual. Out of all the people that could be put into that position, Paul Ryan's is kind of a not unlike in politics. There's also, I guess you could say, Mitch McConnell, which, there's a lot of people though that are pretty fed up with him. It's just crazy also how, people are, there's this whole, you talk about the, split in the Republican Party, how there's all these people in the all these people are picking one, like, it seems like their political positions of whatever person accused of sexual assault or even worse, they just, if it's that a lot of people, it's like, oh, well, that person's a Republican, so I'm going to support that person, not believe the accusers. Oh, that person's a Democrat, so I'm going to support that person, not believe the accusers. It's crazy how this has taken place. And, you're seeing that, I guess you could say, with Roy Moore and Al Franken, the Democrats rushing the support of Al Franken, Republicans the support of Roy Moore, which, the only thing about the Al Franken thing is that, Al Franken, I still don't get on. It hasn't been clarified. I'm not clear about whether did he touch the woman, or is he just takes that weird picture where he's where he's actually, where it just looks like he's going to grab the woman's breast, or is he touching her through a flak jacket? Was he actually even touching the flak jacket? I mean, I guess you'd say it's an untasteful joke. So was it sexual assault? I don't know about that. And the Roy Moore thing, I don't know really enough to say what I believe about the accusers, and whether there's truth to it. From what I've seen in politics, it did not shock me one bit if Roy Moore had done all those things that were said. I really didn't even know his name, honestly, until about a couple of weeks ago. I did not know about really anything about his run. So anyone else wants to call in, just letting you know, 718-717-8296, 718-717-8296. Here, Voice of Bun Radio, with your host, Chris J. Yep, right on, I guess you could say a marathon day. Was that, had a long shift at work, at 11:15 to 8. Then by the time I got home, it was almost time for the radio show. Like, just had a few minutes, really just to get ready. I didn't even have any time to rest. And I guess you could say, so in a way, I was really, and I got to work early too, so, it was about, I left the house about 10:25. So, I guess you're almost about to go into that 12-hour mark of doing stuff, either had to go run an errand real quick before work, then went to work, and then I'm doing the radio show, and then by 11 I'll be done, I guess, and I could, relax, and then tomorrow, whoop-de-doo, 11 more hours at work. All 11 at work. That's gonna be a fun day. And, probably part of it, probably doing classwork or something, because I have a little bit of, I still got weeks, still got some college work to do. So and I got a final exam on Friday, so it's gonna be a little bit of a fun week, I guess you could say, for me. What else has been going? What else has been on the news? Besides, let's see, did I cover? There's something else I saw. Oh yes, I forgot to talk about the election that happened in Chile, actually. So, there was we had another South American election. I think it was last Sunday, an election there versus I think Piñera and Gayer. Doesn't remember the names of the candidates that ran as part of their presidential election, which Chile's been kind of haunted with the shadow of the former dictator that was placed by the CIA, Augusto Pinochet, who his brutality is unprecedented in South America, the worst leader ever in South American history, and he still has his few supporters, a lot of the edgelords, I guess you could say, still support Pinochet online on the internet. I don't know why. It's again a contradiction. They'll say they're anti-Zionist, but they supported a Zionist-supported candidate. I believe they also had a relationship with Israel, allowed probably partially Israeli-backed corporations into Chile, and it was last. Since today is the 26th. It was last Sunday. So it was a week ago. It's kind of weird. It's already been a week since 19th. Kind of remember, I think it was 19th. That was, it's like a week ago. Oh, this week went by pretty fast. So, yes, the election happened, and now it's went to a runoff vote. Sebastian Pinera versus Alejandro Guerra. Sebastian Pinera belonged to the Chile Vamos party, and Alejandro Guerra belonging to the Force the Majority party. The runoff is going to be December 17th for this for the election. So we'll know. Looks like what's that? That is about like 2-3 weeks from now. We will know who is winning the Chilean election. Also recently, I think let's see. So I think I saw something about Cristina Fernandez Kirchner that she's going to. I thought she was going to run or something like that in the next election. It looks like she's also coming back in Argentina. Despite that she kind of fell out of favor like a year ago, or was it 2 years ago? Yeah, it was 2 years ago when she lost that election to Marcio Macri. Her successor, person who was supposed to be her successor, lost the election to Marcio Macri 2 years ago in Argentina. By the way, Sebastian Pinera more representing the right wing in Chile, and Alejandro Guerra is more representing the somewhat representative of the Pink Tide in Chile, the socialist movement across the continent, opposing imperialism, its corporatism, and the Western's influence on the country. And the other candidate being Sebastian Pinera, who's more representative of, from what I understand, the right wing. He went to university here in the United States. Connected to the private sector more, and looking back on some of the stuff that he also owned 20% of Lana Airlines, pretty big. That's a pretty big airlines. I mean, I see their, a lot of times I'm looking at flights and stuff like that. I see all the time, about flights to South America, LAN Airlines. He also once owned Chile Vision, a terrestrial television channel broadcasting nationwide prior to becoming president. He was fined $680,000 by Chilean securities regulator for not withdrawing a purchase order after receiving privileged information and infractions similar to insider trading. And he sold Chile Vision to Time Warner, and he sold his shares of Elan, as well as participation in Colo Colo. It says that he's built an estimated fortune of $2.4 billion, a billionaire. His wealth is greatly due to the involvement of introducing credit cards to Chile in the late 1970s and his subsequent investments. Pinera acquired shares of the formerly state-owned company from Scandinavian Airlines in 1984. Let's see. So he did one thing about Pinera, though, is that he said he voted no in the 1988 plebiscite on whether Augusto Pinochet should stay in power until 1997, even though it was a secret ballot. In 1988, as Pinochet had lost the referendum and Chile was returning to democracy, Pinera offered his support for the Christian Democrat Eduardo Frei Ruiz Tagle in his pre-candidacy for president. Eduardo Frei Ruiz Tagle was the son of former President Eduardo Frei Montalva, who, together with Pinera's father, founded the Christian Democratic Party of Chile. Pinera's attempt to become his party's candidate fast forward. Pinera opposed arrest and detention of Augusto Pinochet in London, initiated by Baltasar Garzón, arguing that it was an attack on the sovereignty and dignity of Chile. What? Pinheiro was president of his party from 2001 to 2004. He tried to run for senator in 2001, but resigned his campaign after the president candidate of his alliance, a member of the allied party, the Independent Democratic Union, made it clear that he would not support candidates from Pinheiro's party. And then Pinheiro has ran for president before, and he ran in the 2009-10 election. Let's see, and what eventually happened was that Pinheiro placed first in results. As I said, Pinheiro's victory meant a shift towards the right, breaking 2 decades of center-left leadership and becoming the first elected right-wing leader in 52 years. Pinheiro suspended his membership in National Renewal. So he actually was the president. I did not know that he was the president. Oh, he was the president before Bachelet in the past. Yeah, so this could be interesting though with the future of Chile and with the potential Pinheiro retaking power in the country. I think Chile though just ultimately really altogether just been haunted by both sides, I guess you could say, the Pinochet's shadow, and then ultimately there's no real candidates either side. I say this on both sides. I don't really see, too many great options for Chile right now, and it's pretty unfortunate, honestly. The future of the country is pretty, it's pretty questionable right now, and that's a lot of South America altogether. It's just fallen into this, I guess you could say this trap that, now they're going back to the same people that caused Operation Condor, 1 million of its citizens to be killed. South America lost that many during Operation Condor, which was when the CIA in the United States cracked down on left-wing dissent across the continent, and literally 1 million people were killed by the United States government during Operation Condor in the 1970s, 80s, 90s. With the backing of presidents like Carlos Andrés Perez, also the Brazilian dictatorship, the Uruguayan civic dictatorship, as well as other Bolivia's dictatorship that they had, some of the other, I'm trying to think of, some of the other names though come to mind. I think Ecuador was once a dictatorship, all across the continent this happened. And also they used people such as, also other right-wing forces such as Klaus Barbie and his paramilitary that he had, in order to hunt down Che Guevara in Bolivia in 1967. So ultimately, and then there's been Colombia that's been the whole situation where they've never turned to the left. The only country in South America that was not a participant at one time or another of Pink Tide, and Colombia is ultimately one of the countries with the highest poverty rates in the region. They also have a 55%, they have 55% poverty and something like 29% extra poverty. There's a lot of poor people, very poor people in Colombia, and the minimum wage in Colombia is the minimum wage in Colombia is $120 a month. They're going to be also seeing an election soon in May 27th, and then the runoff, if needed, will be June 17th. Which last time Juan Manuel Santos won the election, which I think this is it for him because he's done his 2 terms. He's been president since 2010, ever since he took over from Alvaro Uribe. There's been a lot of jokes about Juan Manuel Santos over the years, and it's about time that he went. I think his vice president, German Vargas, a lot of people say he'll be like the favorite to win this election. Not just the way Colombian politics goes, is that they have all these different parties, but they ultimately support the same thing. There's only like one party that's any bit different. That's how it's been for years in Colombia. And, there was actually a time when they used to alternate between parties, but it was ultimately a dictatorship in the 1950s, 60s, and 70s. It went that way after the actual military dictatorship of Gustavo Rojas Pinilla, who unfortunately, I guess I could share a name was the Rojas name, but I don't think we're related anyway. He was a military dictator that was there during the 1950s, when there was the start of the violence that led to the civil war that went on for 53 years between FARC and the Colombian government. Which, FARC is pretty much degraded from any kind of, maybe revolutionary leaning they had into just pretty much a narco, paramilitary group that, I guess really was almost just like a boogeyman that served the need for Colombia to have an enemy to keep the government. Did a lot of horrible atrocities with, keep dangling the, boogeyman of FARC over the Colombian people's heads. That, that FARC was gonna, was gonna continue to murder civilians. It was a boogeyman that, similar to Al Qaeda for the United States, I guess you could say it was FARC or Colombia, but FARC was actually on Colombian territory for all those years. And it's actually almost been a year since the peace treaty. Both houses of Congress ratified the revised peace accord on November 29th through 30th, thus marking an end to the conflict. And it was actually just signed, the revised peace deal was signed on November 24th, on 2016. It was after 52 years of fighting, too. Absolutely nuts. 52 years. And now we're over a year later. It looks like we're heading towards the end of Juan Manuel Santos's legacy in Colombia, and I think most of the people, that's the thing, is that watch the even though it seems like there's a general, from both sides, people strongly have a distaste for Juan Manuel Santos, but watch there still be this, still his vice president still going to win with, 60-70% of the vote. From both sides, is that even there's people on the left that, mad at him being a puppet and continuing to allow, to privatize state-run enterprises and stuff like that. And then people on the right wing that call him a communist and, say that he's an agent for Cuba and Venezuela because of this peace deal with FARC. There's actually people that believe this inside Colombia. And I've been, I've seen these type of people as I run a Pro Chavista page for supporters of Chavez in Colombia. And, I've got a lot of remarks like that from, people online, all kinds of just ugly stuff over and over again. It was, absolutely absurd, the kind of, statements that I got, running the page. But just kind of disregarded it. I think that's part of the, ultimately my new job. I kind of have to have a thick skin to work at, but this kind of, that's in the previous job kind of maybe built that, previous, this thing, the running that Chavista page kind of built a tougher interior. By the way, it has 1,500 page Chavistas in Colombia if you're interested in liking another page supported by me. And also, if you haven't gotten a chance, I post stuff all throughout the week, not just Sunday. You would have to, to come, hear about, my thoughts and, stuff that I'm filling you in about. Chris J's Facebook page, Chris Jackson Rojas on Facebook to subscribe, and also you can you can see all my the stuff that I have on there, all my posts, different news links that I share throughout the week, and also as well the podcasts I do. I do I'll go live. I do Facebook live streams. I do this quite a bit, and I haven't done too many recently, but I used to do them like every 4 days to a week or so. You can definitely check that out, and leave some likes while you're there, because I don't post pictures of kittens or titties, so I don't get a whole lot of likes on Facebook. It's a real travesty. I'm gonna go cry about it. By the way, if anybody wants to call in, got about 30 minutes left of the show. 718-717-8296. 717-8296. You're a Voice Rebellion Radio. Chris J. Right now, Chris J. just blabbing on about really multiple random topics. I just wanted to go live today. I hadn't done a show in 4 weeks, so just to be back on the radio feels good, and doing my part to contribute to the alternative media. When after it felt kind of weird, going all the way from last show, that Voice Rebellion Radio last edition, that was on the air on November, not even November, but October 29th. Wow, that's crazy. October 29th. And so November 26th. What I realized is that we're getting close to an anniversary. Is that today's the number 26. 28th, I believe, is the anniversary of this radio show. Voice Rebellion Radio started on November 28th, 2013 as Revolution Radio on NWO Truth Radio with Brandon Council and James Van Schiek. That was the original cast for Voice Rebellion Radio. Revolution Radio was what it was called until November 2014, when I changed the name. I did my first show, I think it was called Fascism and False Flags, and it was I remember being kind of nervous before going on that show, and then when I actually went on the show, I did a really good job, and it was kind of what sprung my career forward, I guess you could say, here on the radio. And then I remember doing like 2 more shows after that. And then I think my fourth show ever was an interview. Who was then the Libertarian candidate for governor, Adrian Wiley. I was able to interview him on December 18th, 2013. So that was my first, I guess you could say, like big show. It was the first interview that I ever did. I haven't even listened to any of those like 2013 shows that I did. That's kind of when I got big into the alternative media, got big into speaking out about the New World Order and the corruption in our government, and all of that nature was like 2013. That's kind of, I guess you could say that's it's kind of funny. I look back on my tactics and sometimes I cringe a little bit of how an impulsive 15-year-old handled things a lot of times online. Most of my social media handling, I just kind of just provoking. Maybe a little unnecessarily at times, and nowadays I kind of, I guess I've normalized my image. Maybe what I've done is I've done something bad by trying to make myself seem too normal in some ways. If you compare it to what I used to do, and I used to, I remember in some of the radio shows, the earlier ones, I actually kind of made an effort to try to put some passion into, sound a little bit louder on the shows. Nowadays, sometimes I just take it a little bit more easy during the shows, especially today, because it's more on a marathon here. Like I said, is that I'm past the 12-hour mark now at this point of being out and about. I was at this point 12 hours ago, I was already in my car driving, and then like pretty much as soon as I got home, it was about time for the radio show. So it was really not much time for anything. I didn't even get out of work. Like I didn't get the clock out of work till 8:07 Eastern time. So that was when I was clocked out at my computer. And then I didn't even get to my car till about 8:10. So literally it was within 53 minutes of, my work day ending, being on the radio show. But, I made it work, and I'm here, so I'm glad. I just reflected back, though, it's, wow, almost 4 years. It's kind of crazy looking back on that. And, to all the people that have listened, if there's anybody that's actually listened from the beginning, from 2013 all the way to today, 2017, I thank you so much for being here for the ride, and still more good radio to come, and hopefully, you guys stay along for a while, continue to jump up the ranks, and that may one day I'll be on a even, bigger platform. You'll still see me on, it won't just be Voice of Rebellion or radio here at UCY, but maybe Voice of Rebellion Radio at Press TV or something of that nature. I've seen some people online that have done just that, moved up to like Press TV, became contributors and stuff like that. I guess I'm still waiting for my little break there. But for the meantime, I'm still pretty content to be with you guys here at UCY.TV, and, just making it this far at the age that I did, 17. It wasn't easy. It took a little bit of work. Sorry about that, everyone. I lost the feed again. I guess that's probably a good thing. I was just kind of rambling on about McCain's. I was talking about John McCain. I wondered, is he still, really sick? And then I started thinking about. I remember this. Does everyone remember about that one McCain's dollar or something like that? It was kind of like, I don't know. People were saying it. She was kind of slutty or something like that. And I remember her being kind of hot. I don't know. And then that was saying it was like, oh, that's the one with big tits, isn't it? But whatever. Yeah, I at this point, I'm just rambling on about about different stuff. We got 20 minutes left. We're just having fun at this point. By we, it's my 5 other personalities, and there's 6 roommates that they all have. They all have 6 roommates each. You know, it's a crazy community. Yeah, they all live on East Schizophrenic Lane. It's kind of, it was a funny joke. I went a little too far with it. Oh man, I need a co-host. I need someone to anchor me. Keep me on topic. But there wasn't no. I didn't set up a topic. I just wanted to do a radio show tonight, and so it's like I think I've covered a lot of major topics that you can think of. Now we're getting like subtopics, like stuff that I would know quite a bit about. One thing I got a new book, by the way, to everyone listening. I got this. What's the name of the book I got? I haven't actually got to read it yet. It's a little green book. I have the green book and I have now the little green book. The little green book was wrote by Ayatollah Khamenei. So that'd be a good read while I'm on the shitter one day. Have some that, or maybe a good read while I'm at the Kava bar or something. It looks like it's probably only going to be like a 2-hour book or so. It's got like his political sayings and stuff like that. I'll talk to him and I'll see there's a lot of disinformation about him out there as well. People about the Iranian Revolution really together is that people try to say that it's a CIA operation because they point to a couple things the Shah said. But the Shah was financially tied to Israel heavily, but they try to say that the Shah opposed Israel. He was pretty tied to Israel, and he was tied to the United States very strongly. I mean, people forget that the Shah of Iran was put into power by the United States when he was already overthrown. The Shah was then, the people were had a lot of animosity because of what they did in 1953 with the coup. The United States overthrew Mohammed Mossadegh, who was democratically elected, when the Shah had they decided they don't want the king anymore. They don't want the dictatorship anymore. The Shah acted dictatorial. And people, they value, they value some the things that, like one of the things I see that they said is that, the women had a lot more freedom under the Shah. And that might be true, but they still have a lot of freedom today. It's a misnomer that they're, totally unfree, like Saudi Arabia. The women at a mosque, they have, they'll cover the hair and stuff like that, but they don't, have to wear the burqa or anything like that. And I've seen them compared to Afghanistan and Saudi Arabia. It's not even comparable at all. And people like Mila Yiannopoulos, the fake alternative media, they love to do that. This is what I don't like about the alt-right, is that they, push the Israeli, bullshit of the hatred towards Iran and try to make Iran seem like this very hostile, horrible place. And while he continues to say nothing about Israel and what they do to the Palestinians. I mean, I've seen reports where they've killed 5.1 million Palestinians over the last 70 years. These are Holocaust numbers. The same 6 million, they talk about the 6 million all the time. A lot of times when they try to justify the horrific things that they do with the horrific things that were done to people in Europe by the Hitler regime, they're going to say they try to justify with that, but they have killed almost as many people there that happened in the Holocaust in a much smaller country. This is 5.1 million people, and ultimately, then the Zionists can also contribute, the tens of millions that died under the Soviet Union after the Bolshevik Revolution, which ultimately was another operation by global Zionism. And just look at the names it breeds off, like you would think it would be the Israeli parliament by some of these names are the Russian, the Russian Revolution, the first Soviet government. It's a absolute travesty of what happened in the Soviet Union, and upwards of potentially 30 million were killed by during the Stalin regime, throwing gulags and all that, like that stuff, that kind of nature. So, global Zionism, and what I mean by global Zionism, Zionism is not just a problem isolated to Israel-Palestinian Strip. It's not just a problem isolated to the Middle East. It's a problem that affects the entire world. The Mossad is behind false flag operations from Argentina to Belgium. They're behind the support of global terrorism. They're behind the support of fascist regimes all around the world, including the Ukrainian regime that continues to massacre people in Ukraine and the Donbass region, ethnic Russians, just for being Russian. The Zionists and the Nazis signed the Havar Agreement together. The Zionists are also behind they are behind the Gulf Arab regimes that are extremely dictatorial. They were behind the global Zionism affecting millions of Russians during the Soviet Union, was the massacre of people and the gulags. They were also a big part of the destruction of Christian Russia, which now is being rebuilt, and they are vehemently opposing it. They were behind these wars in the Middle East. They were behind the banking usury in multiple countries. And if you speak about this and you speak of this nature, watch, this will be used against me. But if you speak about what they do to the world, you get called an anti-Semite and a Nazi. And I'm sure there's people right now, they're probably screaming, "Oh my God, this fucking Nazi! Oh my God, this guy's a white supremacist! I knew it!" And then they probably think that I'm some guy with a bald head and a Nazi tattoo on my forehead, screaming into his phone, while I just, but ultimately I think I'm not really screaming, I'm more like whispering, just kind of laid back. I'm a Nazi stoner, I got the bald head, but I'm also smoking a big fat doobie, and listen and read Mein Kampf apparently. By the way, no use of drugs was done before this radio show today, just letting you know that I know of. No, okay. But serious note, the Zionist agenda is, you can see it also in the degeneracy that is being pushed in the Western world on different fronts. This is what has the rap, the destruction of the black communities. This is again another effect of Zionist control Hollywood. Other degeneracy that's being pushed by the Zionists across the world via Hollywood would include the creation of shallow narcissistic people with also the social media. They're behind this push of creating, I guess you could say, what a lot of people see the worst things, the millennials. They are behind the creation of that. They are behind the creation of by millennials. I'm not saying this is what people perceive to be millennial traits. This is what they're pushing on the people, and also the creation of making people into only concerned about their smartphones. This is another thing that the global Zionism and their effect on the planet is. Look at what. You could even blame a lot of the environmental problems. Is that a lot of the corporations, they support Zionism, they're polluting the planet. That there's also the Zionists support the wars that a lot of are caused that are polluting the planet. From so many angles, Zionism is a cancer to the planet. And, some people call Islam a cancer to the planet. But here's the one question: how is 1/3 of the planet Muslim? And we're still okay. Is that, I can't think of too many cancers where we could have 1/3 of the body is affected and you're still around. But, like Israel's a tiny little, spot on the planet, but it's so destructive to the planet. That sounds like cancer. Where a little bit of it could be deadly. It's like pancreatic cancer to Mother Earth is what, the Israeli state is. And the leaders that have called it out in the past, Hugo Chavez, Muammar Gaddafi, they tried to overthrow. We must yell in the loudest voice we can. Us, the people that oppose this New World Order, global Zionism, the degeneracy, and this ultimately this push to destroy the nations and replace it with a one world fascist state where there's no rights for the people. It's a safe haven for corporations, and where the people are just turned into labor unions. We must oppose this, and this is the agenda that they have for us. And this is what I've been fighting for 4 years now to, maybe perhaps I didn't exactly know what I was talking about at first, but, then I've kind of changed my angle over the years, and kind of changed my positions on different things. But, ultimately kind of the same core concept in the beginning, and this New World Order and the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, and all these, scumbags that are at the top of the ladder. This is the people that I am calling out on this radio show. And I hope that I implore the people that listen to this radio show to do the same in exposing that, and exposing people that are, behind the Federal Reserve and their usury on the United States, that they're printing currency to ultimately charge our government, that charges us via the IRS. We are paying money back to them. They're drawing a perpetual debt that we can never pay back. That means ownership, and that's the goal for the Federal Reserve. That's what it's been for 104 years. We're actually nearing the 104th anniversary. And this is what, as Henry Ford said, if people knew the international banking system, there would be, I think, a revolution tomorrow is what he said. And even though I don't agree with Henry Ford on a lot of things he said, that was pretty true. It's like what George H.W. Bush said. If they knew what we had done to them, they would chase us down the street and lynch us. And that's very true. That if people knew what was going on, if people were awake to what was going on, they would have a much different opinion towards the government. It would not be, we'll just vote for the next candidate in 2020. The Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, all these people that ultimately are pushing, some people think some of the stuff that used to be conspiracy, but the deep state is now realized. The NSA and the spying on everyone is true now. Stuff that was only in the furthest, wildest dreams of conspiracy theorists, I guess you could say, we're finding now it's true. We're also finding out that, like the Chicago black sites, that if he told you that this country has, secret torture centers, remember when we found out about that 2 years ago? People would call you nuts before, but now it's true. We must oppose. We must fight for, for the future of humanity. And this is what this fight's about. This fight, opposing, what these bankers have done to the future of the American people, the future of the people around the world, and what they're trying to do to, when we talk about, imperialism around the world, and imperialism in the New World Order is also, what we are mentioning, and how they are trying to colonize every country to be a part of the Western banking plan. And, any country, like we see with BRICS, they're trying to bring it to the ground because they've finally challenged the bankers' goal, there. We must realize that they are trying to disintegrate the nations, disintegrate the borders. It's an attack on the nations. It's an internationalist, slash globalist, agenda that they're pushing, of this country, of this world without borders, and there's also, obviously there's no problem, with, people intermingling from nation to nation. But we must realize that there are multiple different cultures, multiple different countries around the world, and that nations are here for a reason, is how I see it. And that ultimately, the concept of nation is I guess you'd say, an extended version of like concept of the community. I talked about in the Green Book about the concept of the nation, and you should very interesting read, by the way, if you ever want to read it, the Green Book, where I think some of my political philosophy has kind of shifted more to that into the era of socialist, the bossist stuff, that type of thing. I've really taken a lot of interest in the last few months, and people like Muammar Gaddafi, and really just the last couple of years. I guess I moved away from internationalist Bolshevist ideology and realized what it was. And over 2 years ago, when that's when I kind of shifted my message. I know I did a show in December 2015 where I revised a lot of what I had to say about the Bolshevik Revolution before, compared to when I know I one time celebrated in 2014. I won't deny it. That was me, November 2014, celebrating the Bolshevik Revolution. But you didn't see me this year on November 7th, 2017, celebrating the 100th anniversary of the Bolshevik Revolution. Because to me, that was the Bolshevik Revolution is not a highlight in human history. It was a scourge on the planet, where the Bolshevik Revolution led to a travesty in Russia, and the Christian Russia's identity being crushed by the internationalist bankers. And, you just look at the names in the Bolshevik Revolution, it speaks a lot. Putin even said 80 to 85% of the Bolshevik Revolution was Jewish, or the first Soviet government was Jewish. And look what, just look at what Putin had this, ultimately it's one of the countries was only 3% Jewish. Why was this government 80 to 85% Jewish, so disproportionately Jewish in a country only 3% Jewish? It's because this is a government that was implanted by the Zionists in order to crush Russia. Not saying anything about Jews altogether in general, but the disproportionate representation of, I don't have any problem with Jews in general, but the disproportionate representation of Jews in the first Soviet government was alarming, to say the least. So to everyone that is listening right now, it looks like we're about to end the show. We're at 10:56. So, by the way, next week, don't be shy to call in. 718-717-8296, 718-717-8296 will be the number. We are nearing the end of the show. It's 56 after here on the East Coast. And thanks everyone that is tuned in for what is probably the 200th episode of Voice of Rebellion Radio that has happened. As we're now, as I was saying, is that November 28th is the 4th anniversary of Voice of Rebellion Radio. It started in 2013. One more year, it's going to be 5 years. That's going to be crazy when I get to that 5-year mark. Still the 4-year mark is still pretty crazy to reach. And, to have all this radio experience, I guess, I never thought that by, 20 I would already have been done 4 years of radio. That's 20% of my life doing, these radio shows. And, I plan on continuing for doing them for a while as well. I don't plan on stopping yet. And, might take a little break the last couple of weeks, but I plan on bringing a lot more new content over the next, couple months, hopefully a few more interviews. So right now we are nearing the end of the show. The bumpers will hit at 10:59. Next show is going to be, Live Free FM with Nathan Frazier coming up here at UCY Radio. So if you listen to UCY Radio, don't go anywhere just yet. And, if you are, again, interested in more content from me, Chris Shea, just check out Facebook.com, and you have Chris Jackson Rojas. Press subscribe, and my profile is open to the public, so if you subscribe, you'll be able to find. You don't have to friend me in order to see all my see all my different memes I put up, news links, and podcasts that I do throughout the week. But to everyone that's tuned in from wherever you tuned in, and also if you caught part of the show but want to catch the rest of it, it's going to be on archives on YouTube and the UCY.TV archives. Thanks everyone for wherever you tuned in for tuning in to Voice of Rebellion Radio. My name is Chris J, and I had fun these 2 hours, and finally I'm going to get a break, finally relax, enjoy the rest of my night. Wish me luck.
Running no return and nobody can stop it. Malcolm Little when he knelt before Elijah Muhammad that commented, kill the dinosaurs, changing the earth. They love to criticize, they always say I changed for the worse. Like prescription pills when you misusing them, nigga. The Templar Knights when they took Jerusalem, nigga, and figured out what was buried under Solomon's temple, Al-Aqsa. The name is not coincidental. I know too much, the government is trying to murder me. No coming back like cutting your wrists open vertically. How could the serpent be purposely put in charge of the country? Genetic engineered sickness spread amongst me. My people are so hungry that they attack without reason, like a fucking dog ripping off the hand that feeds them. Immortal technique is treason to the Patriot Act. So come and get me, motherfucker, cause I'm not coming back. This is the point from which I can